recorded live.
Welcome to Slideshow 135 community call. Daily Talk with host Rich Vernadeau. Daily Talk with Slideshow 135 community call. Daily Talk is a weekly call-in talk show which airs on www.talkshow.com every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Call in your questions or comments. 724-444-7444 and call ID 13739. Press the pound sign.
Good evening. Welcome to Researcher 135's Community Call, Daily Talk with your host, Rich Vernadeau. Tonight we will be discussing the dreadful Dallas police ambush that occurred Thursday night, in which 5 police officers lost their lives. And I see we have a caller from Northeast Texas. Good evening, Northeast Texas.
Good evening, Rich. How's everything?
Well, hanging in there. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be on.
Thank you very much. One of the elements here, as Reuters News Service is talking about, apparently this was a lone gunman who was not affiliated directly with any organizations. He was a veteran. Michael Xavier Johnson, 25, described as an Army veteran of the Afghanistan War. He loved weapons and had a hatred of white people, which he said, and which the police chief of Dallas, Michael Brown, brought out during the press conference. They used a robot to deliver a bomb to finally take out this killer in the end, and that is historically the first use of a robot device to kill a perpetrator like this after a long standoff that went on for hours and hours. The dead are Lauren Aarons, 48 years old, patrol and property crime scene, who had been on the Dallas PD force since January of 2002. Michael Kroll, who was 40, originally from Wayne County, Michigan, where he worked in the jail system there before coming to Dallas and going to work for Dallas Police Department. Michael J. Smith, who had been with the Dallas Police Force since September 1989 and was also himself a 7-year Army veteran. Brent Thompson, 43, who had been with DART since 2009. This is the first loss of a DART officer in the line of duty through a violent death. Patrick Zamaripa, 32 years old, 7-year veteran of the force, a Navy veteran as well, who had done tours in Iraq. And one of the tragedies, caller, about this type of thing is the retaliatory violence aspect of it, and the fact that there have already been copycat incidents, one in Bristol, Tennessee, involving a 37-year-old Lakeem Keon Scott. There's 1 dead there and 3 wounded. Officer Matthew Cousins was one of the wounded in that case in Bristol. And then there was a case in Valdosta, Georgia, and in Baldwin, Missouri. So, caller, if you have comments or questions about this, please weigh in on these tragic events.
Well, there's just no respect for authority anymore.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that stems from?
All kinds of reasons, but the root cause, I think, is because the black-white issue, but more than that is the single parent, the single mother.
Mm-hmm.
Single mothers don't naturally discipline their children or teach them any respect for authority, and they grow up with a chip on their shoulder.
Well, one of the precipitating factors in all of this And one of the reasons for the peaceful protests, of course, both there in Dallas and in many other cities nationwide, including a big one in Atlanta Friday, in which the demonstration was so big that it brought Atlanta traffic to a standstill. One of the precipitating factors seems to be police shootings of black men. One in Louisiana and in Minnesota are allegedly the two of the triggering aspects that, in this particular case, this Micah Xavier, those are two of the precipitating events that seems to be fueling this type of response.
Yeah, well, you've got in the black community, you've got a culture that sees themselves as victims, and it's backed up and it's exacerbated and backed up by the press. When you get a bunch of people that feel like they've been mistreated, and you get them all together in a group, and then somebody that is perceived to be a member of the oppressing class happens to come along, he's in a world of trouble. I saw it in Dallas. I didn't see it personally, but it occurred in Dallas back in the 80s. A young 2-year rookie officer responded to a man talking crazy. I mean, I got a call about a man acting crazy and talking crazy and approaching people and everything down close to the Greyhound bus station. And the officer approached him, and they got into a scuffle. It was a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
Got into a scuffle, and the black guy took the white officer's pistol.
Uh-huh.
Well, when that happened, all the black people around there, which most of the people hanging around the bus station are black, all the black people hanging around there started taunting him, telling him to shoot the cop. Shoot him. And so he did. It was a typical mob incident, and in fact I wrote there was the Fort Worth Star Telegram. I wrote a letter to the editor of the Fort Worth Star Telegram about that incident, and they printed it.
Mm-hmm.
I still have the article here somewhere. But anyway, the black community sees themselves historically as victims.
Well, and it's historically accurate. There's been so much systemic and literal racism at so many levels, physical and economic, within our country. The Jim Crow laws, of course, the lynchings, all the way up until the 60s when Martin Luther King, of course, led the civil rights movement. People were still getting killed and brutalized then throughout the South. And big city police departments have been notorious in their handling of the black community. So there's a very real and valid level of resentment there on the part of the community that can be borne out. You know what I'm saying? I'm just observing that. I would like to welcome my Observer 22. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
If you would like to comment or make a statement or a question, weigh in on the issues, that would be great.
Okay, I will. This is new for me, so I'm just going to listen and then I'll share my thoughts.
Okay, great. We look forward to it. Becky Black and Boots Co. in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, in the chat room says the real cause of the chaos in America is because of the jobs that were sent away. It used to be Dad worked in the factory and Mom stayed home. Becky has a point here and raised the kids. If we were bad, Mom knew even before we got home, and she made sure we didn't repeat it. So, yeah, there was a level of discipline some years ago, definitely, within the home that is missing nationwide. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, and in black families, the father is missing. The father is gone. In a lot of cases, an awful lot of the cases.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the problem is, right there. when boys are raised without their father, they generally go in one of two directions. They'll either be a very self-centered, narcissistic, and with a strong sense of entitlement, like what's his name? What is his name? Sam Cooke. Or they'll be neglected in childhood, and in addition to not having a father, and they grow up with a self-hate, which manifests itself in a hatred for all men, especially white men, and that's been going on for generations. So what you wind up with is a culture when people are taught from the cradle on that we're victims and the white people are out to kill us and this and that and the other, then you're going to have people that want to make a statement and actually believe that stuff. But it's not true. The media drives it. Almost every one of the deaths, allegedly police brutality deaths that has happened, has been the police. The court system has found them not guilty, and most of them were not guilty. Now I don't agree with I think some of them was
Henry. There is a level of systemic racism throughout our culture that has manifested itself. Even there's many cases. It has even happened to Oprah Winfrey, for example, in a store, and there was a great deal said about this. People in all walks of life, all economic situations, professional black men feel intimidated and threatened by police because there is that level of racism present in many police, perhaps not all, but in many police jurisdictions throughout the country. There's something going on that has to be recognized. Something that Becky points out here. Now kids are raising themselves. I raised my children as a single mother. They did not have their father around. And she talks about, and guest 4, a different person, guest 4 says, yes, it is extreme for blacks. So many black grandmothers are raising their grandchildren. There's so many dynamics involved in all of this. We have to be aware of all the many different things that are going on.
You know what? One thing that's going on. I'll tell you one thing that's going on. Opposite cultures, opposite people, totally opposite, as opposite as you can get, and still be the same species, have been forced to mingle and mix together against their will. And that's been going on now for 400 years. Blacks were brought to this country against their will, when they gained power, which was in the 60s, the blacks took over power, and now that they're mixing with white people against their will. So you got two groups that have a different identity, different color, different everything about them is different, except their humanity. But they're being forced to mix together against their will. The problem is, and there's no answer for it because they're already here, and but that's one aspect. I'm not saying that's the problem. The problem is the single mothers raising psychopathic children. All the penitentiaries are full of black men, and yes, there is racism. Sure, you know why? Because there is different races. I mean, it's natural to be. Everybody's racist to some extent or a degree. It may not be against another race. It may be against their own race. But everybody has racism because racism is a human. I mean, it's human to to prejudge. I mean, when people fall in love, they make a judgment call about, oh, this person is better than any other person in the world, which is not true.
But you have to draw a distinction between the environment, between what people are taught versus the natural. And I do not believe that children are naturally or instinctively racist at all. That sort of thing is taught within the home. That is a learned behavior.
That's not true.
Go ahead.
It's not true. That's not
I
true.
like to respond to the gentleman that's speaking. He had said something earlier. I'm gonna catch up with him when he was talking about the media driving racism. I guess what you would call African American, but I'm really not African American because I'm Choctaw, which means I'm Native American, which I was already here, or my people was already here. Not all blacks came over or Africans came over on the boat. If we go back beyond 400 years of slavery, go back thousands of years, a lot of us were already here. They want you to think that we were all brought over here on a boat. That's why it's so easy for some people to say, go back home to your country when this is our country. And another thing is my family never taught me racism. I learned racism, or not saying that I'm racist, but I experienced racism at a small town school that I went to. Nobody in my family said to hate white people or nothing like that. I went to school with white kids who called me and my friends' names, and teachers who found out that their daughter was dating a black guy and they would move to a totally different state behind it. I don't know if it's shame or hatred. So, and another thing about, I have a lot of friends who grew up in single-parent homes. I have friends who grew up with their fathers, and they turned out not to be, I guess, what you would think would come from a co-parented home. And I don't think that parents are always to blame. I think at one point that we as individuals have to take responsibilities for our own actions. I grew up with both my parents, and I could be bad. My brothers, they're different from me, but I chose to live my own life and be accountable for my own actions and to be great on my own and not be influenced by anyone else. And I think more people need to be like that, not be so dependent on outside sources and look within, self-education and everything else for improvement in this world.
I agree. Let me ask you a question. Do you have an urge to get a gun and go out and kill white cops?
No, not at all.
Why not? Your people have been mistreated more than the black people. Your people suffered a genocide.
Yeah, but
so why
what
not?
is that going to change? Why keep on two wrongs don't make a right?
Well,
so why keep doing it?
It won't. What I'm trying to get at is the media is pushing. The media is trying to stir up hard feelings
race war
in the black community, and they're doing a good job of it. Every time.
Well, the media didn't have to do that. History did that already.